with this thing. And I'm going to close my email, Rachel. So I'll have my phone, but that way I don't get pop-ups and stuff during the meeting.
Yeah, and I'll watch for hands up. Okay. So do you have the agenda in front of you? Committee member Anderson, are you good to go with the working agenda I sent you yesterday?
Yeah, I think so. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. I am going to unmute our public and we're ready to go if you are.
All right, sounds good. Good morning, everyone. This is Committee Member Anderson of the Public Health and Pharmacy Formulary Advisory Committee, and I now call this meeting to order. Today is Friday, September 15th, 2023, and it is 8:03 a.m. The Public Health and Pharmacy Formulary Advisory Committee meetings are conducted in accordance with the Oregon Public Meetings Law. Under the Public Meeting Law, governing body meetings are open to the public except as otherwise provided by law. The presiding officer has the authority to keep order and to impose any reasonable restrictions necessary for the efficient and orderly conduct of a meeting. Governing bodies are authorized by ORS 192.660 to meet in, quote, closed or executive sessions, end quote, in certain limited situations. All official actions by the committee must be taken by public vote, and the vote of each member must be recorded. We will now take care of roll call. For the record, when I call your name, please verbally acknowledge here. Committee member Andrew Gibler.
Here.
Committee member Catherine Hammond. Not seeing that she's here. Committee member Sean Jones is excused today. Committee member Alicia Lee.
Here.
Committee member Mark Myers.
Here.
And committee member Sarah Wickenhagen.
Oh, Sarah, are you there? I didn't hear that for the roll. Sorry.
Yep, present. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right, so a few housekeeping items and meeting etiquette. Committee members and staff silence all devices. Identify yourself as committee member or staff member with last name each time you speak. Please speak clearly and one at a time as it is critical for the public record. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and retained as a public record. Public comment, if applicable, occurs towards the end of the meeting, and the committee will not deliberate any issues or requests during public comment, such as formal requests or currently proposed protocols. We will now approve the meeting agenda. Could I please have a volunteer for a committee member who will second all motions for the remainder of the meeting?
This is committee member Gibler. I can do it again this time if you want.
Great, thank you so much. So for the record, committee member Gibler has volunteered to second all motions for the meeting. All right, so I, committee member Anderson, move to approve the agenda.
Committee member Gibler seconds that motion.
Thank you. Committee member Lee.
Yes.
Committee member Myers.
Yes.
Committee member Wickenhagen.
Oh, Sarah, we didn't hear you again.
Sorry. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we will now approve the 8/16/2023 meeting summary. So I, committee member Anderson, move to approve the 8/16/2023 meeting agenda, or summary, sorry, meeting summary.
Committee member Gibler seconds that motion.
Thank you. Committee member Lee.
Yes.
Committee member Myers.
Yes.
Committee member Wickenhagen.
Abstain.
Great. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Do we have 4 votes? I'm so sorry. I don't have the agenda
We
in front of me.
did, yes.
Okay.
We had myself, committee member Gibler, Myers, and Lee.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right, we will now review and discuss the formulary protocols with staff member Davis.
All right, good morning. Give me just a second to get everything up on my screen so that I can share it with you. Staff member Melvin, I don't have the ability to share my screen.
Are you outside of VPN?
No, I'm in VPN.
Can you hop out of VPN and look at Teams outside of VPN and see if you can? Something's going on with your laptop, most likely. I noticed your connection. Turn your camera off too. You may be having a bandwidth problem because you're
My
frozen.
share button is grayed out both inside VPN and outside VPN. It looks like I don't have permission.
Interesting. Okay, give me just a second.
I think that you're not the only one. Mine is too, even though I wouldn't be sharing my screen, but that's
Here,
very unusual. I've never seen it.
I just made you a presenter. There was
Thank
Teams
you.
updates also this week, and I might have shut you guys out on purpose. Okay, now try it.
Okay, I'm good now. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, let's go here. Oh, not there. All right, here we go. Let me get back into the formulary committee, meeting materials and meetings and today. Okay. My understanding just for the committee is that subject matter expert Valdez will be hosting all the discussions today. The other SMEs weren't available to participate on such short notice. So here we go. Where do you want to start?
I think we can probably just start at the top.
Okay. So I'm going to open the cover page assessment treatment pathway. A couple of things just for the committee. So I took all the protocols that Amy sent me, and last night or like yesterday, I went in and opened them, went ahead and put in the track changes. So that's already turned on. I saved it with today's date so we can maybe save a little bit of time trying just to do efficiency. I also have gone through and renamed in the header. The only changes I've made to the protocols were in the header on each protocol to make it consistent with the way it will read in the rule. We've removed any abbreviations like HPV or, different, because those, it's best practice not to use abbreviations. And so we're just calling it what it is and made consistent naming throughout. So you'll see a few changes in the header. And then the only other change I had to make on the protocols, I think there's two of them, and this is also for subject matter expert Valdez. In the pharmacist training and education section, I took out all the additional language and just referred the pharmacist to the rule because the board could change what's in the rule and how it's worded, and I didn't want to cause a conflict there. So just pointing the pharmacist to make sure they have the training and CPR as required by rule.
Yes, I absolutely support that.
It's all yours.
Okay.
Whoa.
So this is kind of the opening document as she's zooming here.
Sorry.
And what we're calling the standard protocol for all vaccines. So this contains all of the elements that you would use for any vaccination, and including the vaccine assessment and treatment care pathway. And then it refers the pharmacist to use the protocol for each specific vaccine, which would contain all of the dosing and products and those sorts of things. Scroll down. So staff member Davis mentioned the changes there. The only thing that has really happened is that we've combined all of these into one document. So really no changes. That second page there is the treatment pathway, which is laid out in steps based on the pharmacist care plan, which is standard for pharmacy practice. And that's it for that one.
Any questions or comments from the committee on this protocol?
This is committee member Anderson. I don't have any comments. Looks good.
I'll save it and close. All right, next up is managing adverse reactions. And subject matter expert Valdez, if I'm correct, you had put your changes also in track changes on anything that had changed? Or are you pointing out?
I am just pointing out, so
Okay.
we didn't have any changes, I don't believe, to
Okay.
this protocol. So we've looked at this one a couple of times. Again, combining kind of the 3 different documents to do with adverse reactions. So there was a cover page, a treatment pathway, and a protocol. So those are all combined now. Nothing new on this page. The second page is the care pathway, same as the last one we looked at. And then it goes into the protocol. So the most significant change that was made was adding the information for down to 6 months, because we are anticipating that change in age for flu vaccines by the time these protocols are live. So we're providing our pharmacists with the dosing information for products, medications to treat adverse reactions down to 6 months. So I did have a comment here. So OHA had some references in their chart that dosing by weight is preferred. If weight is not known, dosage by age is appropriate for ages greater than 36 months. So preferring dosing by weight if they're under 36 months. I did look this up at immunize.org, which is a common pharmacist or immunizing reference that pharmacists uses. They have a similar comment. They don't specify the age. So I left it in here with the comment of greater than 36 months, which was OHA's comment. So I don't know if the committee has any thoughts or feelings on that.
Committee member Wickenhagen, that seems very reasonable to me.
Perfect. So same comment here in this chart.
Sorry. This chart's urticaria.
And in the hydroxyzine chart as well. And so we already kind of talked about this. Staff member Davis, I would assume we would be updating this to, we already covered it on the covered page. This is specific to documentation, so I'm not sure how
Yes,
we
I'm
want to
sorry,
word
I
that.
didn't catch that. It's
You'll just make it match.
yeah, it's a different rule, but 104. I can't believe I know these numbers. This is the this is the new records number that requires, to keep copies of records. So that's
Perfect.
where we'll point people.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. And that is essentially it. So in summary, the changes were combining all into one document so they could just click on it and everything is there as a package, and adding the information for dosing down to 6 months.
I apologize. I'm showing things in the all markup mode. We will make sure that like pages align correctly and things like that. Small, non even substantive changes.
Wonderful.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Right. What shall we do next? Are we just going to go alphabetically today?
Yeah, let's just go alphabetically. I think
Okay.
that'll be easiest to keep track.
Okay.
There's so many. So this is the cholera protocol. The items that we went through were mainly just formatting comments. So aligning language and words in the top section in the protocol, aligning use of the brand name as you see here in section 2 in the vaccine schedule, making sure that looks the same from protocol to protocol. And then aligning information in the storage section for how that appears. Other than that, no changes, no clinical changes.
Any questions from the committee on the cholera protocol? All right.
Now we have a little excitement.
Staff
So,
member Davis, I just forwarded the COVID-19 protocol to the
Okay.
group, so they'll have to access their email to view that.
Or they can see it on the screen, but
Or they can see it on the screen, but if they'd like to follow along, I just sent the one you.
thank you.
You bet.
yeah, so yesterday, Oregon Health Authority issued a new protocol for the new updated coronavirus vaccines. I'm sure you all heard that we now have updated COVID-19 vaccines. And so we pulled this information from the OHA protocol. CDC actually is not even live yet with their updates on their website. So this is truly hot off the press. The one thing I will say is there really were not any changes in the overarching recommendation. So it's still recommended for the same populations, for the same reasons. What really changed is more similar to like when we have our annual flu vaccine update and the product changes. So I don't think we have to talk through kind of the reasoning behind the recommendations, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to touch on that did change as we go through here. So preparation of the products is mostly the same. One good thing is that Pfizer did simplify their regimen. So instead of having 2 products that required dilution, they only have one, which is the product for the youngest population.
Sorry, can you tell me where I should be? Is it just here?
I think if I can just cover these things in general
Okay.
and then we can go down and point them
Okay.
out might be easier because
Okay.
it's not necessarily in the order of the protocol. Like I'm reading off of a ASIP summary document.
Okay.
So
Okay.
products have been simplified a little bit. Storage and handling is pretty much the same. Pfizer did simplify their dose volume and unify it, which is a good thing. Moderna has reduced down to only 2 presentations, so also a good thing, less confusion. And then, of course, the caps colors have changed. So all these new products, rightfully so, are going to have different caps and labels. So we went through and changed all of that and updated that. The biggest thing that was done is that the name, how they're referring to the vaccine has changed. So everywhere that it said bivalent COVID vaccine has changed to updated 2023-2024 Pfizer or Moderna coronavirus 19 vaccine. So that's the new term instead of the bivalent vaccine. So you'll see that kind of replaced throughout the document. Okay. So let's scroll down a little bit. So the immunization protocol talks about the ACIP recommendation. What I wanted to highlight here and maybe spend a little bit of time talking about is making sure that we are making this very clear when it comes to age. So this vaccine is a little bit different than all of our other vaccines because although our protocols authorize pharmacists to immunize age 7 and older, except for flu when that statute goes into effect. We do have the PrEP Act that's still in effect until the end of 2024 that allows vaccinating down to age 3. So I just want to make sure we're really, really clear in our documents, what this protocol is for and how it's used. So one thing that I noticed here in section 3 vaccine schedule, OHA, and this is copied just from OHA, so we haven't had a whole lot of time to digest. But I noticed they used age 5. I would propose, since we are publishing this as a pharmacy protocol, that we would change that to age 7. That is the age that is authorized by our protocols. So I would suggest in item A and item B that we change that age to 7. And that's how our previous protocol that we last talked about was structured.
What are you talking about
Not
here, Amy?
not there.
there.
No, up
Oh.
above in the words.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me undo what I've done.
We'll talk about that next.
Sorry.
Yeah, up
yes.
here.
And
Yes.
staff member Davis here. I will email OHA. I'm not aware of anybody having received these vaccines, although they're probably coming today or tomorrow to some locations. I do believe that might have been a mistake. They used the protocols also for nursing. And so and MAs and other types of places. So I will email them and ask them to update that because it shouldn't have been 5 years. It should be 7.
And then the other thing that we did in our previous version is we actually took out the charts relating to vaccine under age 7. And so this chart for the pediatric recommendation for age 3 to 4 and the chart beneath that, I would ask the committee to confirm that that's what they want to do. I am not opposed to keeping these things in here, but if we do, I think that we should put a statement up in the top. So way down at the bottom of this protocol in other considerations, it says maybe let's go there. Sorry if I sound all over the place. I'm kind of digesting this as I'm presenting it. So way down here at the bottom, this item B says that pharmacists can administer COVID vaccines down to age 3. I think if we're going to, we could include the information, but I think we should be a little bit more specific in our verbiage. And I would recommend that we would move that statement up to the very top and say something like, this protocol covers age 7 and older. The PrEP Act is authorizing this. We've included vaccine formulations for all ages, for informational purposes or something like that. If you don't want to make that statement, then I think that we should take out all the charts related to the lower ages.
This is committee member Dibbler,
yeah.
and I agree with you, Amy, that just moving that to the top and including the younger ages is a good idea until that PrEP Act expires.
Yeah, I actually think it would be really helpful if the committee is not opposed to that. Obviously, we know we're going to be updating these protocols periodically, and this one might be updated more frequently than others. And then I think we remove it at the appropriate time.
Yeah, and the reason I think that as well is just confusing if we don't do that. And the board will get a lot of questions from pharmacists.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think they'll be like, what? Why isn't this here? I mean, I think we should just kind of call out the elephant in the room. Like, we realize this protocol doesn't cover under 7, but we also realize you have other authority to do it, and here's the information. So what are thoughts here with the info that staff member Davis is putting in the header? I like that. Any opposition to doing it that way? And then is anyone opposed to moving that statement about the PrEP Act from other considerations up to the top section, immunization protocol? I would add it as item
C.
C. Yeah. We could also put it in vaccine schedule because we actually don't talk about ages in the first section. We talk about ages and schedule. So I think either place there near the top would be good.
If I move this, I know you've got reference numbers. Is this going to mess up your reference numbers? Just
Mm,
because it's number 2, I'm not sure what number 1 is. So just
yeah.
something we may need to tag. We can fix that on
Yeah.
the back end, but just something.
I'm
to be-
happy to work through that on the back end if the committee is okay with that.
So are you wanting it in 2 or 3?
I'm curious what the committee thinks. I almost feel like it might make more sense. I think it's fine in either place.
Smee Valdez, committee member Lee had her hand up.
Oh, yes, committee member Lee here. I think the number 3, the vaccine schedule, may be better
Okay.
because that's the, you know what I mean?
Where
I'm
we're
not
saying
sure.
the ages. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
And then also when you're putting the number C, maybe put a parentheses after saying Oregon law requires age 7, blah, 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 so that the pharmacists don't call you guys. You know what I mean? Put both information. Like the PrEP is age 3, but then parentheses, Oregon law, blah, blah, blah. That way the Oregon pharmacist, oh, okay.
yeah, I think that is a good change. I think that makes it a lot more clear.
Yeah, maybe put an Oregon pharmacist instead of just pharmacist. We might have a pharmacist that, you know, floating around the states and such.
This protocol is only for Oregon pharmacists.
Yeah.
We don't.
Okay,
no.
You
yeah,
have
yeah.
to be licensed in Oregon to use the protocol. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good change. I think that helps clear it up. And then we don't have to worry about it almost feels strange. In our previous version, we had actually updated all the ages to 7, and it always feels weird because it feels like a false recommendation. Like that's not true. That's not the recommendation. So it's always weird to deal with this age change, which I hope in time we can see you know, go away altogether now that we're down to age 6 months for flu, but I digress.
For
All right.
this particular chart, because the acceptable age range is 5 to 11, is the same statement. I just want to make sure that still works because we're kind of splitting in between.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I would do that. In the past, what we would have done is change that 5 to 7. So I think if we're going to keep the 5 and keep it accurate, then we put the disclaimer on anything that refers to an age lower than 7.
Okay. I think I made it through there.
Great, thank you so much. So let's go to the next section, past vaccine schedule. So these are just all the updated using the new nomenclature for the vaccine. Pretty much all the footnotes are the same. All the clinical recommendations are the same. Really no changes. The colors, as I mentioned, have changed in those charts.
Do you want to talk about Novavax real quick?
Sure. So they did change the verbiage a little bit around Novavax, and now they're calling it a alternate vaccine and calling out that it's not preferred. And then they have this footnote below that this is for use only in individuals 18 and older who don't have access to an mRNA vaccine. It's not clinically appropriate, meaning that they had a severe adverse reaction, or they would otherwise not get vaccinated. So it's not the preferred product. It is available to use in these few cases, so that the language around that has changed just a little bit.
And then I was reading Staffmember Davis here, the ACIP didn't address the Novavax 2023-24 formulation at their meeting on September 12th. And because they were waiting for additional data, and that there is a product being made and they expect to have a separate meeting later in the month to approve that. So we'll need to kind of talk about, we may need to meet again very quickly to update this even before it goes to the board meeting. Because if I looked at ACIP's upcoming meetings, it looks like they have one scheduled. I think it was September 22nd. And I wondered if it was just for this Novavax.
Just for the Novavax,
Conversation. They don't have an agenda yet, but that was just my guess.
Okay.
So just, this is
That
the
sounds
old
like a good
formulation.
plan. This is the old formulation. Yeah, so which is still on the market and still available. It's in the marketplace and it's still authorized. It's not the preferred product, but it is still authorized. I do think that's a good conversation to have, Staffmember Davis, not just for that issue, but just how this kind of happened. I do think we need to have a plan for what that might look like when changes come that are very time sensitive.
Yes, and we are working on that behind the scenes
Okay.
with board staff of having
Great.
like a very tight plan. We may, right now, likely because we have to do this through rulemaking, we will not be able to be as quick as OHA has because they don't have to go through a board and go through rulemaking. But we are trying to make it as streamlined as possible to decrease impact. So
Perfect. Okay, next section is licensed vaccines. So we have updated this chart with the current products that are available. And we have both the FDA approved and the EUA versions here. Thank you. I'm sure there's some formatting stuff.
Yeah.
We really only had time to kind of bring it over under our format and wasn't a lot of time for formatting.
Yeah.
You can fire us.
No, not at all.
No, you can't. Yeah, so you'll see in this chart now, you'll actually see the trade names used here, which we did not have before for the bivalent. So this is all those listed here. And then you'll see the Novavax here, which Staffmember Davis mentioned is still the previous formulation. Okay, I don't know why that A is there. I think we can delete that. I think she deleted something that was there. So this is where they talk about the straight up recommendation. So this is the whole age range recommendation for use. In our previous protocols, we have changed this to only reflect the 7 and older. So if that's what the committee wants to do here, we would change these ages in sentence 1. We would change that to greater than or equal to 7. And then I would suggest, if we do go down that route, that we move the statement about children 3 to 4 years of age, maybe to other considerations. Any thoughts on how we approach the ages in this section?
Committee member Wickenhagen, can you just try to be as consistent as possible?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So to be consistent with our other protocols, we would want to change where it says age 6 months and older to greater than or equal to 7 years.
Me Valdez, this is staff member Melvin. I just wanted to let you know that you do have another SME on the call. I
Oh.
wasn't sure if you were aware of that.
Great.
Looks like Mackenzie.
Awesome. Hi, Mackenzie.
And this statement, you said move down to other considerations?
Yes. So that is the age range that is allowed under the PrEP Act. Typically, the recommendations for use is how the pharmacist would use the protocol. And so since that age is not covered by protocol, I think it would be better in other considerations. And then the rest of it, deals with the adults and children greater than 12. So that's good. We do have this statement here about doses for adults and immunocompromised persons greater than age 5, maybe any authorized product. I think that still fits since it's, across the whole age range. We could change that to 7, I suppose. What I would suggest if we change that to 7 here is we copy that statement and add it on to the one we moved and keep it at 5 for the part lower down. Just so it's clear that if the pharmacist is kind of using that lower age range under the PrEP Act, that they would also apply this statement. Perfect. Thank you.
This is committee member Gibler. I just have a question on A.
Sure.
About interchangeability, and it seems like this A has a lot of different thoughts in it. I wonder if it could be broken up when we start talking about interchangeability. And because you can interchange if you don't have the right vaccine, I guess I'd like to, maybe we can be more clear on when we can interchange versus not interchange, and the fact that many adults, I mean, I suppose it really doesn't even matter because these are not primary series that many are getting now. I guess I'm clear. Does anyone think there should be some that can be made a little bit more clear? I think we're talking about primary series, right?
Yeah, the two sentences are a little bit in conflict. So the first sentence says they're not interchangeable, and then the next section tells you when you actually could interchange them. So what might help is maybe they're not routinely interchangeable. Would that help? And
that would
then
be
it
fair.
goes on and tells you the rare circumstance when you can use a different product.
That could be helpful. I think some people see protocols as black and white, and I think there's some flexibility here. Making that just a little bit more clear could be helpful.
This is committee member Anderson. Isn't this one of the areas that the CDC is trying to streamline by just saying that and I don't know what it is for children, but I had been hearing that for adults, the recommendation was we're going to start just being to get, a yearly flu shot, and then like kind of like the flu. I think that in children, the very first time they get one, they get like 2. And I know they haven't made those updates yet, but I don't know. I have a feeling this is going to change, I guess is where I'm getting at.
I have a feeling this is going to change. We also there's a little bit limited information. The CDC actually has not published the full ACIP update verbiage. We have notes from the ACIP meeting, but we don't have the full published information. I think it's fine for now. And I think it's clear. I think the section is clear that, you know, the strong preference is that as routine use, you don't want to be mixing and matching, but in these cases, you can interchange them. I do think it's going to be moving along to streamline the presentations, the preferences for brands, and I do think all of that will streamline, but we can update our protocol when that happens.
Yeah, this committee member Anderson, I totally agree. I guess I'm looking forward to it all starting to look more streamlined.
As am I. Yes.
And this is committee member Gibler. Maybe in that first sentence, we could just say when the primary series is indicated or something to that effect, because we don't really talk about that. We're really discussing the primary vaccine series till the very end of B. But I think that's to make that clear up front. That would, because it just doesn't apply for annual vaccines.
Mm-hmm. So essentially moving the last part, referring to the primary series up to the top, so when they know when they start reading that paragraph that
that would be more clear to me.
Okay.
But if others disagree,
I added this. Where are you wanting me to pull from? Sorry.
Oh,
this.
Yeah, go ahead, Amy. I'm sorry.
No, I actually think it is maybe fine as is. I know it repeats that twice, but we can't really move that. We can't remove that whole sentence because it's part of a longer run-on sentence. I think it's fine how it is. I think adding that second up top like really calls out that this is for the series. So I think that's fine how it is. Okay. So they did add this section about Novavax and the mRNA, the new 2324 mRNA. So that language is new. So it talks about Novavax not being preferred, but it is approved as a 2-dose primary series and as a first booster in certain circumstances. And then what do we do with people who complete that Novavax series with this new vaccine? So that's what this section addresses. And again, this might change once they have the information about the updated Novavax vaccine. So pretty much none of these lists of immunocompromised people or anything like that has changed, just the nomenclature of the vaccine. And then here we have all the updated formulations and their contents. Again, the cap colors and label colors have been updated. And then warnings and precautions. There are no new warnings and precautions. And other considerations are pretty much the same aside from the things that we have moved around. So I guess my question would be, when we moved that statement about the younger children, do you want that at the bottom of the list? Would you prefer it's at the top of the list? I think it's fine where it is. I don't think there's going to be a huge population of the younger kids that we're vaccinating, but I just want to make sure it's not hidden. If anyone feels it's hidden down there, we can certainly move that up if we need to.
This is Committee Member Gibler. I think it's fine where it is. I think anyone probably vaccinating that young will be reading the protocol very carefully.
Yeah, especially since it changes so often. Okay, side effects and adverse reactions is the next section. We kept our statement the same from our previous protocol. And then actually these charts are pretty much the same as well. This being a new product, they don't have a lot of post-marketing data. So these might change in the future, but for now, they're going with the known information about COVID vaccine adverse events. Storage and handling, pretty much the same, although I did mention there have been some changes in that Pfizer no longer has 2 products that are diluted. They only have 1, and then Moderna has reduced down their formulations as well. And then we get down to our references. So we're using the new package inserts. We're using the ACIP slide deck is the primary reference here, number 6. And then you can see number 7, they actually have not updated the interim clinical they haven't published their updates for the interim clinical considerations. So that's still the previous reference for much of the information in here. When that is published, and if we end up doing changes around Novavax, we'll probably want to update that at the same time and just make sure there's not anything else new when that is published that we would want to add at the same time as the Novavax update. And that's it. So that was a little bit longer than anticipated as we were coming into this meeting, not knowing we were going to have a brand new protocol. But really the majority of the changes have to just do with the product formulations, not necessarily the recommendations.
This Staff Member Davis, I did want to mention when we brought up this statement, this was actually fine and it doesn't mess up your numbering because you already had 1 through 4 here.
Yep.
So there was none. You were good.
Perfect.
We don't have to go back and renumber.
Great. That's fantastic.
This is Committee Member Gibler. I just have a general question that I noticed on the inclusion of these, we include things like ingredients on these vaccine protocols, incidents of adverse effects. Some of these things are updated regularly, or in the package insert might be something that, like, I would wonder if pharmacists would prefer to go to the prescribing information rather than this document to look up specific ingredients, just to be sure, to check against allergies. So I just was curious about the tradition of including ingredients on our protocols and how often they get updated, and if we'd have to bring it back to the board if the sucrose levels changed or something. Probably not. I mean, but I just, it makes me a little nervous because we could be prone to errors when you have a lot of detailed information like that, and I'm not paying really any attention to them unless there was, I needed to pay attention to that information. I just don't know what the thought is behind including something like this in our protocols. versus just referring to the package insert.
Yeah, I can speak to that. That's a valid question. So this is brand new territory. These vaccine protocols are really the first place where we really talk significantly about products. Previous protocols from this committee just are kind of a different animal. So this was included in the OHA version, and that's simply the only reason why we included it here. Is it was in the OHA version. It is a nice reference. I agree with you. It could become outdated. And the committee has not objected to date to having it in here. That doesn't mean we can't change it in the future. So this is where you're really going to rely on your SMEs. So the idea would be that each time that there is a ASIP meeting or a package insert change, which the SMEs are clued into. So like I get those things sent to me as push notifications, that we would propose an update to the protocol to the committee. I do think your point is valid that there could be times when it is outdated. However, I think that pharmacists are pretty used to going to the package insert for additional information. If you wanted to beef that up, what I would suggest, because otherwise it involves changing every single protocol, what you could do is go back to your treatment pathway and add language that talks about always consulting the package insert for the most current information when it comes to ingredients. I mean, I would be specific what you're referring to, because
And
you
I'm not
can't just say that.
suggesting any,
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that, Amy. I wasn't suggesting any changes. I was curious
Okay.
about the background behind why we do that.
Mm-hmm.
And just because OHA did it doesn't mean we need to do it. But
Yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
not doing it in that, like not making any changes at this point. But I think we could, if you're getting interrupted with updates and having to bring them before our committee because of little changes, it might be an opportunity to in the future refer to the package insert for some of this
Mhm.
non-clinical information that I don't know if
Yeah. I
we
mean,
can just see how it is going forward.
how OHA has handled that in the past is little things like that. They did not update. It was in the annual update. So
Okay.
even if there was like a change in, for example, a really common one is latex allergy. A lot of products are moving away from even the tiny bits of latex in like their syringe tip caps and whatnot. That would not be reflected in the protocol until the next annual update. And then you would see a tagline, allergy has been removed. But that could have been in place much longer. Now, if it's clinically significant, for example, if an allergy was added, then I think it would be prudent, to immediately publish the protocol. But if it doesn't change practice or your clinical decision making, then those little things would kind of wait for the annual update. Now, your committee meets more often than annually, so you do have the opportunity to update these technically anytime your committee meets. So yeah, I think that's a good topic for the committee to talk about in the future, is how much of this you want laid out in verbiage versus referring to other places and keeping these cleaner.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Smee Valdez, this is staff member Melvin. You also had another Smee join the call during that
Wonderful.
discussion. Looks like Sierra Sitton.
Hi, C.
Hello.
We have gotten to the new COVID protocol so far, so we're doing alphabetical, so we've made it through 2.
But this one was very, very big. Staff member Davis, I just want to say, I do anticipate, because the Novavax is coming, that we will have to pull this committee together one more time before the October board meeting just to look at any updates again. So that while the committee can make a recommendation to send this to the board, which is fine, we may need to meet to update it again. Well, my hope is that once the Novavax is approved, and then we would possibly have some more final ACIP language, that there wouldn't be really further major changes to the COVID protocol once ACIP meets again later this month. So
Agreed.
I think we should be good because they're moving towards like the flu format of once a year kind of thing.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. No, I agree. I think it's improving. It's a learning process.
So I say that if there's something that we missed or something, because there were a lot of moving pieces in a very rapid, and this is something that OHA has dealt with for a long time. Like I said, I email them and say, hey, we need to update this and fix that. Unfortunately for us, because these go through rulemaking, we're going to have to be very, very correct every time because we can't make substantive changes once it's gone through rulemaking without doing another rulemaking.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I think that's it. We can move on to the next one, which is Haemophilus influenza B. So similar to all of the other protocols, unless I see that staff member Davis has highlighted any tracked changes. I don't anticipate this one has any changes. The only alignments we did, again, were in the naming conventions, the formatting, the temperature designations.
Staff member Davis, because we just changed, and I hate when we do these things in real time. We just need to keep in mind that if anything has a under 7, that we need to put a note and update the chart if you're wanting to keep consistent throughout.
Yeah, I don't anticipate that there are, but there certainly could be.
Okay.
I know every time we look at these, we find little things. So
just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Any questions from the committee on Hib vaccine?
And remember that FDA column will always be the real FDA approved age. So we don't need to update or change that one. We want that to be accurate. It's the other places where we talk about age 7. So one of the things we did here, staff member Davis suggested, and I like the suggestion, is using the word containing. So hepatitis A containing vaccines, you're going to see that in the header of several of them. And that was to provide uniformity for the things that have multiple antigens. So for example, in this protocol, Twinrix does have multiple antigens, and we have that in several of our protocols. Other than that, no major changes here besides the formatting things that we've already talked about.
Should these be bolded? I'm assuming not.
Yeah, that's one thing in some of these earlier protocols that may be hanging around.
Okay.
We started bolding them, but then when we had multiple people working on them, they were not always bolded. So I'm fine with unbolding in general.
Any questions from the committee on hepatitis A?
So moving on to hepatitis B, very similarly, you'll see how we changed the naming, and it's the same exact reason. With the Twinrix now included in both the hepatitis A and hepatitis B protocols. Previously, it was only included in the hepatitis A protocols, I believe, which was a little bit strange. So this is complete. Otherwise, no updates.
there's no A. I'm sorry, just realizing. I was like,
Is it up above the chart?
didn't see it. Maybe. Oh, there it is. Okay. Got it.
Undo, undo.
I did that. That's more I was getting rid of the bolding. From
Bolding.
these. Yeah. Might as well just fix it while we're
Yep.
going through here.
Sounds good.
Then I don't have to fix it later. Numbers are bolded. Okay. And we are good. Oh, just keeps going. All right. File, save, close. HPV.
So similarly, we don't have any changes here. Same as when we looked at it last time. Oh, I did. Can we also double check, Jen, for the clinical decision making vaccines? I want to make sure we have that appendix at the end of each one. I think we missed one, and now I can't remember which one, but it's here in this one, so that's one down.
Okay, so with the clinical decision making, we were creating specific recommendations that the pharmacist had to follow. So is that new language in here?
Yeah, so this is the language we discussed at our last meeting for the over age 26, and then it goes down to say exactly what they can do.
Okay.
So that one you're highlighting right now is how they are authorized to administer. So they can administer if one of the following risk factors is present.
Okay.
At any age, having a new sex partner, and adults with few or no previous sex partners. If either one of those are present, then the pharmacist could use that as a basis for their dialogue with the patient. Again, it's a two-way dialogue, so it wouldn't necessarily be the pharmacist blanket recommending. It would be a discussion with the patient.
And was this in the previous protocol? I'm sorry, I'm not remembering, or is this updated language since the last time we met?
That is slightly updated language. Yeah.
So let's just make sure we point that out.
I thought you were going to do a track change against the whole previous document, so
I forgot.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry because I'm regretting that
okay.
myself.
Yeah, that will be true of the 3 clinical decision making. It actually it wasn't as directive, and so we changed really that kind of sentence. Pharmacists are authorized to administer if, and called out specific things. Whereas before, when we presented it to the committee, it said, here are some of the risk factors you might consider. And the feedback we got from the committee was that wasn't directive enough for a protocol. And so that's the change that was made here.
And so I do want the committee members just to consider that if you feel that any one of these statements is not that a risk factor needs to be eliminated, or there needs to be stronger language, that we need to hear from you about that, because this will be what pharmacists are authorized to do.
This is committee member Wickenhagen. I just have a question. In regards to just sort of CAN protocols that the pharmacies already have, if they're chains, this looks like it gives them a little wiggle room to make some determination on the spot. But if a protocol is built the way it is from a national chain, will these like conflict?
So Staff Member Davis, in Oregon, and if a national chain has a protocol, they can't use that. They have to use ours. these protocols are what give pharmacists the ability to do immunizations. They can't follow, like, they can follow internal policies and procedures, but they have to follow this protocol in order to provide vaccination.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Amy, did
one thing I will say, and maybe this is what committee member Wickenhagen was getting at, sometimes companies set policies that are stricter. So for example, not every pharmacy vaccinates down to age 7. Some set that age a little bit higher. And so there may be some pharmacies that set a policy not to engage in clinical decision making. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but so they have the right to do that. This protocol gives them the authority to do that. It doesn't necessarily enforce that they do that. Does that help, or does that make sense?
That's very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to ask you, because you've been on that side too. Like, that's a good point, that the chain can say we aren't going to participate in this protocol completely or certain elements, but they can't go off script if they are providing the service.
Correct. We see that particularly in the pediatric space, most common. Okay, this is our influenza inactivated protocol.
Any changes, or was this?
The changes that we made on this protocol were related to the egg allergy. So the directive we got from the committee was to, and the age. So we brought the age down to 6 months because this is coming in statute for flu vaccine. And then we also updated the egg allergy information. So we can kind of go down to that area. I think it is above that. Here we go. So in between the time so if you'll recall, back in August, ACIP had kind of similar to the conversation we had about COVID today, ACIP had just released the flu protocol, and not everything was published. So we were able to go to the CDC and get the most current, better egg allergy. And as we suspected, they are pulling back on the fear around egg allergy. So this is the statement from the CDC. Persons with a history of egg allergy may receive any vaccine, egg-based or non-egg-based, that is appropriate for their age and health status. Beginning with this flu season, 2023-24, additional safety measures are no longer recommended. So we took out all that stuff around whether it was a severe reaction and people needing, where to go, it should be done in a different setting. All of that language went away from the CDC. It does still say that all vaccines should be administered in a setting in which personnel and equipment needed for rapid recognition and treatment are available, such as a pharmacy. So that's the new statement regarding egg allergy. I know people had a lot of comments last time, so how do people feel about that updated language?
This is committee member Anderson. I like that. That looks good.
Fantastic. Up in warnings and precautions, they do still have this statement, which was in our previous protocol, that history of a severe allergic reaction to a previous dose of an egg-based is a precaution to the non-egg-based vaccine. So that statement still remains valid from ACIP. For the other SMEs on the call, if either of you worked on the flu update, I know one of you did. Anything else to add that was a major change on this last round?
I don't believe so. I think that the egg allergy was the update
Perfect.
we talked mostly about last time.
Thanks, C.
I do not know why it is doing this weird numbering. I am going to come back. I'll just make a note. Fix number. It's like not letting me not delete number 13. Okay.
That's like a bad luck or good luck, or
I know.
it won't let you
Seriously.
delete it.
It won't let me delete it. I don't want to delete it. I just want it to stay.
Okay, so now we're switching gears to the live flu vaccine. So no changes in these initial sections. And we had all the correct ages there. Any comments from the SME who worked on the live? Anything to call out?
Any questions from the committee?
Committee lead, no questions.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Japanese encephalitis. The only changes that happened to this since you last saw it, which was back in May, I believe, were the updates to the naming conventions, where we use the trade name, where we don't, and the temperature, how the temperature guidance is presented.
Any questions?
So this is another one where we changed it to the containing. We do have products with multiple antigens in this vaccine series. No changes to any of this aside from the naming conventions. But I do want to show you and point out the shared, I take that back, not for MMR.
Not for MMR.
In my head, I always have to think about meningococcal and MMR. Yeah, so nothing relevant with this one. Okay, meningococcal. And we did also change this one to meningococcal containing vaccines rather than calling them ACYW and B. Just a simpler way to say it. Let's scroll down and look at the shared clinical decision-making section. So we do have a footnote in the chart, and then down in the recommendations for use, we address the shared clinical decision-making, which is use of the meningococcal B in healthy persons. So we have kind of the statement from ACIP that it's not routinely recommended, and we can use shared clinical decision-making for patients. So this one is specific to patients age 16 to 23 who are most likely to benefit. So we had to define who are most likely to benefit. So pharmacists are authorized to administer Men B vaccine if the following risk factor is present. College students, especially those who are freshmen, attending a four-year university, live in on-campus housing, or participate in sororities and fraternities. So going to college, if it's a four-year university, you live on campus, or you participate in group settings, then you would be considered more likely to benefit from the vaccine, and the pharmacist could administer if that risk factor is present. Thoughts, feedback?
This is Committee Member Anderson. That looks great.
Okay. Let's scroll down and make sure that CDC attachment is there. Looks like it is, the appendix, perfect. Moving on to pneumococcal. No changes in this section. So this one was missing it had a reference to shared clinical decision making, but not like any information. So we added this whole section here. Scroll up just a little bit more. Yep, right here. So if a patient has previously received both the conjugate vaccine, the PCV13 and the 23, and they got the 23 at 65 or older, then there could be shared clinical decision making to receive the PCV20. So it's not necessarily routinely recommended, but there might be some benefits for patients to also get the PCV20. Again, we have that same statement about sort of the definition of shared clinical decision making. And then we authorize the pharmacist to engage in that process. So how we worded that was pharmacists can engage in shared clinical decision making to discuss PCV20 vaccination with persons age 65 and older who are most likely to benefit. Pharmacists are authorized to administer PCV20 if one of the following risk factors is present and at least 5 years has elapsed since their last pneumococcal vaccination. So those risk factors are living in a nursing home or other long-term care facility. Now, this one, I'm interested in your feedback. Persons living in areas with low pediatric pneumococcal conjugate vaccine uptake. This is listed as with the ACIP. I'm not sure how a pharmacist would know or is tracking which areas have low pediatric uptake, and I'm not sure patients would know either. So I'm interested in your feedback. I don't think it hurts to be in there, but that might be hard to determine. And then lastly, this is kind of the easy one and probably the more common one, the presence of underlying medical conditions or other risk factors that increase the risk of developing severe disease. So this is the list that is used throughout the pneumococcal protocol in section 5B. Is the whole laundry list. I didn't think it was worth repeating there, but if you would like to do that, I am not opposed to that. So this list here, yes. So thoughts about that addition, the shared clinical decision-making paragraph.
Is it, Staff Member Davis, I see a 5BA, and then I don't see a 5BB. I just want to make sure it's not like B and C, like we're just have a random hanging A.
That's a good
think it's
question.
Just, and it's not gonna do
A
this
weird
right, so I'll
numbering
just,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, I'll make a note, not do this in real
I
time.
agree with you. I do not see a B.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's just 5B.
Scroll
and it wasn't
down to
supposed to be anything else.
C. Nope. Yeah, just
Yeah,
5B.
okay.
That's where the list is. Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
Any thoughts around that low pediatric update? Do you want to keep that in? Do you want to take it out? It is what ASIP says, so.
This is committee member Gibbler. It doesn't provide any value, but I can see why it doesn't hurt to have it in there. I just don't know. Not sure how pharmacists would document that as a justification, but so I guess don't have a strong opinion either way, but again,
Okay.
it doesn't hurt, I guess, to have it in there.
This is committee member Wickenhagen. Is there any way that we could flag it and then revisit it the next time we look at the protocol and just sort of see where we land, and if we decided that there is a way to know how to do that?
I can certainly flag it. Staff member Davis, I don't know if you have a method for that. I do think as soon as we're done with this process, we're going to be trying to beef up our SME team and have kind of more of an ongoing plan. But I can keep it on my radar, and if I do end up turning this over to someone else, I can share my list of things on the radar with them. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you.
This summer days, I find it a little odd that like I would think there would be some data dashboard somewhere, even within Oregon. I can make a note to ask the OHA immunization program people
Yeah.
if they are aware of any resource that shows that, because I could imagine that possibly in certain pockets of Oregon where there's just low uptake in general of vaccines, that there may be that this might apply in certain situations. But again, I don't know how a pharmacist would know it without a reference or somewhere where they could look it up.
This committee member
This committee
Wickenhagen, like
member-
Ashland.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't trying to call out particular areas, but potentially.
I guess I just did.
That's
But-
okay.
Okay.
Committee member
Yeah, I
Gibbler,
mean-
would this
Go ahead.
generate more questions leaving this in here right now until we actually have a baseline in which someone can actually compare what a low uptake of vaccine actually is? Because I just, it doesn't have any utility or value, like I said, as it's written. So maybe I'm second guessing that maybe we should just take it out until we can define what low uptake is. And if we can define that, we can just put it in next time we review this protocol. But in the meantime, I think I want to get this approved and move forward to the board.
Yeah, I think that's a good recommendation. I support that. First of all, this whole section, we're talking about a pretty low N. And then when we come down to this particular bullet, I mean, I've been a pharmacist immunizer for 20 plus years. I know the pneumococcals are always changing, but honestly, I've never even considered this topic. I'm focused on bullet 1 and bullet 3 are the things I think about it as a pharmacist, because that's my awareness of the patient and the things that are right in front of me about the patient. So I think that's a good call.
I need to hear consensus from the committee on that to remove bullet 2. So I know committee member Gibbler, committee member Anderson.
Yeah, I totally agree. This committee member Anderson with pulling that.
Committee member Lee.
I have no opinion on that.
Okay. Committee member Myers.
Aye.
Committee member Wickenhagen.
I'm good with pulling it. Thank you.
And again, this is a protocol that changes frequently too, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even this whole shared clinical decision making goes away as more and more population become vaccinated, and the utility of pneumococcal vaccine continues to decrease. So we'll see. And then can we just check down at the bottom of the appendices that we have the pneumococcal shared clinical decision making appendix. I also included, and I don't think we had this in here before, there's a very nice chart about vaccine, pneumo vaccine timing as well, that kind of summarizes all the words that are up above, which I think is very helpful. Other subject matter experts, anything else on pneumococcal?
Not that I remember, but I very much like the addition of that chart there at the end.
Great. It's hard for me at this point to track which SME worked on which protocol, so I apologize. As this project is winding down, my ability to track is winding down. Okay, next one up on our screen is polio. So this is another one you saw back in May. No changes except for what we talked about last time, which was using this version where the travel and the routine vaccination are combined in one. So you did already see that combined. So that's this version. And then we went through and made the updates related to the naming conventions and temperature labeling. No changes, similar comment for the rabies vaccine. Nothing new.
I should have asked, does the committee have any questions on polio or rabies? Okay. Next up, RSV.
No changes. So this was a brand new protocol that dropped last time we talked. So we haven't had any changes. I don't, the shared clinical decision making we did talk about last time. So the only thing that we did was match up the language and the format to match what's in the other protocols. So in this case, there is actually a chart from the CDC. I know the committee had a question about frailty and how to define that. My SME that worked on this wasn't able to, they have this definition in here as a footnote. So I don't know if you're okay with that. I think it's good because it does specify symptoms. So specifically weight loss, exhaustion, weakness. I think there should be a comma between slow walking and speech. Two separate things. Maybe it's slow walking and speech. I don't know. It needs something.
I think it's a space. I think it's a comma that was missing.
So any comments on that? If you scroll up a little bit, you can see the language that we added in. So pharmacists would are authorized to administer if one of the risk factors in the chart is present.
This is committee member Gibler. This is helpful. And thanks for defining frailty as best as you can. I know it's one
Yeah.
of those things you know when you see it, but it's nice to actually try to articulate that.
This is committee member Myers. I just looked it up. It's slow walking speed.
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Makes
Crystal
much
is
more
not on
sense.
today, so yes, makes a lot more sense. Thank you so much.
I think Staff Member Davis, I think this will be very helpful as we know that OHA has been getting a few questions about the protocols posted that doesn't have very specific defined criteria.
Great.
Any other questions on RSV?
Can we look at, I have a few
No.
notes here.
Sure.
Number 12. The spacing is weird. It's indented. When it
It's also
shouldn't be.
missing the shared clinical decision making. Is there an appendix that should be linked?
No.
Okay.
They have not published an appendix. That I can put that on my note for future updates. But I suspect as we move on with RSV, we actually might get more routine use, maybe. I don't know. But yes, we can keep an eye out for a quick guide from CDC. They don't have one at this time.
Anything else? Expert Valdez, did you have anything else?
I don't have anything else on this one,
Okay,
no.
great. Next up, we have tetanus, diphtheria containing vaccines.
So really no changes to this one besides the updates that we've talked about before with naming conventions, temperatures.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Next up is typhoid.
Typhoid, okay. So this is one that you saw back in May, no changes. Trying to cross things off as I go.
Any questions from the committee on typhoid? Next up is varicella containing vaccines.
So as we get into the live vaccines, and we already talked about MMR, sorry. One thing I did do was try to go through and make sure it said pregnant persons instead of pregnant women. So we did make that update in all the places where it references pregnancy. Other than that, varicella, I don't have any other notes.
Okay. Any questions from the committee on varicella? Next up, we have yellow fever.
No changes. Just clean up that we've talked about before. And This one would probably also reference the pregnant persons.
I guess I should have looked for the word pregnant. That would have been.
Oh, we missed one. Thank you.
Let's just double check.
I think we missed checking this whole protocol for that.
Yeah, there's not that many instances, so I think I can do it pretty quickly. Thank goodness for find.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Easy enough. Save.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Zoster.
For some reason, this one, the numbers should be
Format,
one and a
period.
period, not a one
Yeah.
in a parentheses. I noticed that after I sent it.
Okay.
I didn't have any other updates.
This is no longer live, nor do.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Any questions from the committee? Okay, and then that's it. That's all the protocols.
Can we go
Yeah.
back to HPV for 1 second? I had a note hidden in my chicken scratch
Okay.
about the what's new section. Instead of none, can you put NA? That's standard in the other protocols.
Okay.
And then one more thing in the live flu.
Right here.
No, I'm done with this one. Can we go to the
Oh.
LAIV?
Oh, sorry. I thought you said
Yeah,
in the
sorry.
light blue, and I.
Oh,
you were
the
saying
live
LAIV.
flu. I wanted to ask the committee, so in the section, it's probably precautions, where it talks about asthma in kids. I wanted to check the age. I think so here, the actual precaution is greater than age 5. And since the new flu authorization gives us the ability to administer down to 6 months, I think we should change that back to 5. Perfect. The licensing for this vaccine is down to age 2, so. Huh. That was all my notes.
Any questions from the committee that you had made notes that you just forgot to bring up when we had a protocol open and we need to reopen?
And for me, committee member Gibber.
We'll just look for raised hands.
And we're not using that signature page, right?
Well,
I see in
so
your...
staff member Davis, so I created this, so just for the committee's knowledge, currently OHA has a signature page. And it's not a requirement, but I did wonder if we have it like a sample of like a real D form and a sample like SOAP note form out on the PFAC webpage. I wondered if you would like just to put a sample, and this could be used for any of the protocol items. For pharmacists to, I think a lot of operationally, sometimes pharmacies use these to make sure that every pharmacist has seen the most updated version and that they've looked at it or whatever. And so just offering this as an optional, like not a required document. And this was just my like little fast draft. It's pretty similar to the one that that OHA has.
I will offer my comment as a subject matter expert. This is one of the things I intentionally left off because I feel like it's busy work we don't ask any other prescribing protocols that we require them to sign off on it. And as an operator, I can say I never used this to check. Like, we had other mechanisms for that. This was literally just like something we had to make our pharmacist do to satisfy the legal requirement. So that is why I left it off, but I will let you all discuss.
And I'm proposing this as an optional, not as a required. I will say in my practice settings, we have always used this.
This is committee member Anderson. I would agree with Smee Valdez that I think we should leave it off.
Other committee members?
This committee member Wickenhagen, yeah, I mean, I think I would leave it with the employer to determine the best way to handle that.
That's 2. I need 4.
Committee
Well,
member
yeah,
Myers.
I agree.
And Myers?
Committee member Myers, different setting, but we do this for various things and we do it employer based. So we have to do it for a variety of different organizations, but they don't send us their own. We just do our own. So I would agree with leaving it off.
Okay, great. Thank you. It literally took me 3 minutes to mock that up, so it's not like you spent a lot of time there. I just went out to OHA. Okay. Anything else on immunizations?
Any new ones post while we were talking?
No. I do want to just kind of give the committee the heads up because this is going to be new. We've talked internally about how to present this to the board at the upcoming board meeting. Our current plan is I'm going to open the slide deck, and that's going to look really funky because slide decks do weird things in Teams, but I think it'll be kind of helpful. It's the same slide deck you saw last time. I just updated a couple of things. So just FYI, updated the language for what the rules will look like to match what we've called the protocols now, and all the headers match. So I think it will be, very clear and easy as to what we're describing. And then for this initial rules process, the only thing I changed is we've kind of talked internally, and we believe, so we talked last time in this committee about, like, do we send it to the board for October so that they can send it to rulemaking to be adopted? And we kind of talked about potentially a 1/1 effective date or a 3/1 effective date. And so here's where we're at. We're thinking the best, most transparent process for the public would be to take this to the board meeting in October, show the board the rule language in Division 20, which is a currently active division, that will be going away on March 1st of 2024 when it will be repealed and replaced with Division 115 rules. But we send this through Division 20 for rulemaking. This will give the public opportunity to comment on the protocols. Our public is always very good at sometimes catching things. And so it'll be an interesting process to see if they catch anything our experts have not caught, and if we need to come back to the committee for anything and then send it back through rulemaking. So we just want the opportunity for the public to comment on each of these protocols as part of this whole process. And then we'll also send it through Division 115. However, due to some filing issues with the state on Division 115, the rule, this rule that I was just showing, has already been adopted. And so we can't modify it via traditional rulemaking. We can only modify it as a temporary rule to be effective March 1st. Which a temporary rule doesn't go through rulemaking and doesn't give people the opportunity to comment on the protocols. And we don't feel that that would be very transparent. So to recap, we're going to send 2 rule packages to the board meeting in October, one for Division 20, which will go through the the normal rulemaking process, allow for public comment, and then the board can determine if they're going to adopt the protocols via rule in December. It would go into Division 20. What our recommendation is that the protocols become effective on 2/1/2023. We don't particularly like a 1/1/2023 date. It's the holidays. 1/1 is an actual holiday. There's no one working at the state in order to pull down the protocols from OHA. Also, it gives pharmacies the month of January. We can notice them very early in January to say this is changing. You need to go out here. You need to print your new protocols if that's what they do. Some places do that. Have everything ready for a 2/1. We did the same process last year with contraception, and we did not have any like negative feedback. I think it was well noticed, well communicated, and it was very seamless. So letting the board potentially adopt in December to be effective 2/1, which will give us the month of January to communicate with licensees. They would move to the new process 2/1, and then on March 1st, the board could adopt, well, at the December meeting, the board could say, we want to adopt a temporary rule March 1st. And that temporary rule would go into effect for the Division 115 that would match what's already in rule in Division 20. I realize this is a lot of moving pieces, so I apologize. And then we would send the permanent rule for 115 through rulemaking starting with the April board meeting, May rulemaking, June adoption. So I apologize. It was a miss on my part to allow the board to adopt Division 115 because we knew this change was coming, and now it's like frozen in the state system, so we can't touch it. But we do believe that sending it through Division 20 and giving the public opportunity to comment will be the most transparent process for the public.
Staff Member Davis, you said
Yes.
January 2023, but it's
I
January
said
2024.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard 23.
Yes, sorry.
No worries.
Any questions from the committee on this potential process? So the only thing I changed here is I had removed the January 1 effective date and moved it to February for an effective date of Division 20.
This is Committee Member Anderson. I like the idea of keeping things as transparent as possible and allowing for public comment. So I like the change.
And then for the ongoing rules, I did mention this, and I do not know why this is like zoomed super big. It's the same. I didn't change anything, and we're just working internally to make sure we have standard works and processes. If we know that there's going to be an ACIP meeting that would result in probably a very urgent update, like we know with some of the COVID stuff, we're going to work in advance to reach out to the committee if the committee is needed in order to go ahead and set a date for a meeting very closely after the ACIP meeting, and then also work with the board so that we can do any special PFAC meetings or board meetings and try to tighten that timeline as much as possible so that we're able to publish any urgent updates. Non-urgent updates, of course, could just go through the normal next committee meeting and board meetings.
Staff Member Davis says, this is me, Valdez. Who determines what is urgent?
I think we're going to have to work with the SMEs on that.
Okay.
Technically, the SME submits an updated protocol via the feedback form. It might be something as simple as soon as you see something that you think is urgent, you send if you send a feedback form, it comes straight to me anyhow, so I know you don't have to email me directly. But yeah, so it just depends. I think the major things we know are going to be these major COVID changes. When they deauthorized vaccines, we had a lot of conversation this week when the CDC or FDA deauthorized the bivalent vaccine, that if we were to have a protocol on the web, that would be in conflict with the deauthorization. And so conversation about removing the protocol from the web and then having a meeting of the committee and board, because that would be more urgent to pull that rule down to amend that sort of thing, because we don't want to leave a protocol available where it looks like a because it's in rule. It would mean that a pharmacist, if the protocol were still there and still in rule, and a pharmacist was to continue, let's say, giving the bivalent vaccine between when the FDA deauthorized it and when the board was able to pull the rule down, it would potentially mean that the board would not be able to take any action should there be a complaint, because the pharmacist was following our rules. So we just have to be very streamlined. And so that's kind of just, we've discussed what would be urgent, but something like the FDA deauthorizing a vaccine or pulling it from the market would be something urgent.
Yeah.
Versus, or something where new product is coming to stores and going to land in pharmacies, and we don't have a protocol. Sometimes that happens, right? And we just have to say it'll be a few more days, check back with us, that sort of thing. So we're going to work to have a really tight communications plan to make sure that when something urgent happens, hopefully the urgency stuff is going to decrease over the coming
Don't even
months.
say that out loud.
Hopefully.
That sounds good. I think just from a SME perspective and like potentially increasing our team and coaching new SMEs, I think we'll just be sure to include that assessment in our submission is the urgency of the update, and we'll figure out verbiage for that, urgent update needed, routine update. Okay, or something like that.
And normally how the feedback form, because remember, anyone can fill out a feedback form. So if I receive a feedback form on a protocol, what I usually do is send it to the SMEs and say, can you please assess this and let me know? And so that's also another way to loop this sort of thing. And of course, I will be, keeping I've marked on my calendar all the ACIP dates and to check for any major things that come out of meetings that are upcoming, so that I can kind of help keep an eye on it as well. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get back not to that screen. Okay. I believe that wraps up our conversation about immunization protocols. I think there is a motion, Committee Member Anderson.
Yeah, so I mean, before this Committee Member Anderson, before we move to motion, I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page to go ahead and approve these all at once. There was some discussion with the COVID vaccine that there is going to be some updates soon. But if we go ahead and approve it like as a big package, then all we would need to do is go back to that one protocol in the future in order to approve any changes. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any discussion from the other committee members as to, not wanting to approve these all at once, or if everybody's okay with that?
And I think to clarify, maybe are you referring to just doing these as a single motion rather than reading 20-something separate motions?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Committee Member Myers, I'm in favor of all in one.
We do need consensus on this, Jennifer. So if we could hear from every member, because they have to have the opportunity. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Committee Member Giblet. One motion.
Committee Member Lee agrees.
Committee Member Wickenhagen, agree, one motion.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. So Committee Member Anderson moved to recommend the proposed protocol packet for the immunization statewide drug therapy management protocol version 9 of 2023 to the Oregon Board of Pharmacy for review. Do I need to?
Committee member Anderson.
Oh, I was gonna
Um,
say, I might have said that.
Actually, you need
incorrect.
to,
Don't you
we need to. let me
say
look
all
at
of
this.
them individually? Okay,
Yes.
all right, so sorry, everybody.
Instead of doing one, for individually and then motioning on all 20 or whatever it is. So just if you could scroll down to the next. Yes, and you need to
So-
state the
oh, I see,
version.
for
I'm
all-
so
okay.
sorry. Now,
Everybody stick with me. Go ahead, Rachel, sorry.
Is your list, I just want to make sure the list, I cut and pasted the list. So Staff Member Davis, correct me if I'm wrong. We spoke about every single protocol on that list, correct?
Correct.
Polio, rabies, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Committee Member Anderson, this should be correct.
All right, everybody
Okay.
stick with me then for this very long list of protocols. All right, I, Committee Member Anderson, move to recommend proposed protocols for the standard protocol for all immunizations, the cover page treatment pathway, version 9 of 2023. The standard protocol for all immunizations, managing adverse reactions, version 9 of 2023. Cholera statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. COVID-19 statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Hepatitis A and Twinrix statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Hepatitis B and Twinrix statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. HIV statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. HPV statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 8 of 2023.
I'm sorry, that one is 9. I'm so sorry.
It is
Typo.
supposed to be 9? Okay.
Correct.
Correction, HPV statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Influenza, is that 8? RIV 2023 to 24 interim. Statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Influenza LAIV 2023 to 2024 interim. Statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Japanese encephalitis statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Meningococcal A, C, W, Y, and B statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. MMR, MMRV statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Pneumococcal vaccines statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Polio for travelers statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 2023. Rabies statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. RSV statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Tdap and combo vaccines statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Typhoid statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Varicella containing vaccines statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. Yellow fever statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. And zoster statewide drug therapy management protocol, version 9 of 2023. And send all of this to the Oregon Board of Pharmacy for review.
Now I see why you want a consensus. This is Committee Member Gibbler, and I second that motion.
Great. Committee Member Lee?
Yes, third motion.
Committee Member Myers?
Well done. Yes, I approve.
Thank you. And Committee Member Wickenhagen?
Well done by all. Thank you. I approve.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. It looks like on the next on our agenda is to now discuss protocol feedback with the staff member Davis.
Committee member
So
Anderson, staff member Melvin, did you want to take a break really quickly? Does the group need a break?
That might be a great idea, actually.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and take, do we want 15 minutes?
This is Staff
Completely up
Member
to you.
Davis. I don't believe the next two conversations will take an extremely long period of time, but they could. So just factor
So
that in.
Okay, let's
15.
go ahead and stick it out then. That'd be my
Oh,
preference.
okay. Raise your hand, committee members, if anybody really needs a break right now. Okay. All right. So we had two conversations. So we received a feedback form. So I just mentioned that these can come in at any time from anybody. And there was a question on the current continuation of therapy protocol form. There's a term, a phrase called damaged prescription therapy. So I'm going to pull up the protocol so you can see it real quick. And then we just need some committee feedback on what that phrase means. And then if we need to make any modifications, we can do that and send that back to the board if needed. But I think it might just be something that we needed some clarification. So, I mean, I have an idea of what it means, but I can't speak for you. So here's the phrase that was being questioned by the person submitting the feedback. I'm going to try to zoom this. So if we could hear from the committee, I'll give some context. I do recall that when we first received the idea about adding this damaged prescription therapy to the protocol, it was specifically in relation to pediatric antibiotics, where the parent might have stored it incorrectly and it was the pharmacy needed to replace it. And it wasn't easy to get a hold of the provider, and it's something simple. And so that was kind of the context of this. But I know that at other times it has maybe been used when a patient has experienced the wildfire and their medications were exposed to extreme smoke and some potentially damaged, or the heat damaged the prescription therapy. So I was kind of thinking along the FDA, we have definitions for like misbranded and adulterated, and it does kind of seem like this is speaking more specifically about things that are adulterated, and I can pull up what that definition is, but I needed to hear from the committee your thoughts on what damaged prescription therapy is.
This is committee member Anderson. I would agree with you that what you were describing sounds like adulterated, based on what we've all had to learn in our law stuff. But I would also say, I'm trying to think of, there are other instances where something might not, like where they might want a different definition or description of that, of damaged. I'm having a hard time thinking of any other instances, unless it's like an insulin vial that gets broken or something.
Which would be damaged.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if we could change it to say damaged or adulterated.
I don't know that resolves what is damaged. I think that's what the person was looking for. I mean, it would help to know that anything that's adulterated is damaged. But is that only what is damaged? Just trying to think, like I work, working in a pharmacy, the phone calls that you get of people needing to replace medication. You know, it was knocked into the toilet somehow and has gotten wet. It's not able to be taken because it has gotten too hot and it has, you know, gelled together like for capsules. Like what?
I guess I'm almost wondering, sorry, this committee member Anderson again. I guess I'm almost wondering whether or not things that are broken or damaged would also qualify as being adulterated. Kind of think they might. So it might be safe, I guess my thought is to just change that word to being adulterated. Oh, I guess I'm not, am I allowed to call on?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Not, you're allowed to call on committee members.
Okay, well, it looks like committee member Gibbler has his hand up, but also public member Valdez.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't take public
Okay,
feedback, you know.
so committee member Gibbler.
I was wonder if my thought was that if it would, I'm not stuck on damage. And I don't know if this person was. I'm more stuck on therapy. Like I think saying drug or device, prescription drug or device instead of prescription therapy may make it more obvious that it's the actual product that's been damaged and not some sort of nebulous sort of treatment plan or therapy plan or process or something. Therapy is sometimes a noun, sometimes verb, I think, or something. I don't know. I think it'd be more clear if it just said replace a damaged prescription drug or device product or something like that. To me would be clear.
Okay.
Committee member Lee, did you have a comment?
Yes, I agree with, is it Gabler? Yes, I agree with Gabler. I think we should take off that therapy and just keep it as drug.
This is committee member Anderson. Yeah, I like that too. Or I do like the idea of saying drug or device, since sometimes it could be device.
This is committee member Wickenham. I saw you just pulled up your Division 6 from the Board of Nursing perspective. We try to put that in the definition. So if
We
there
don't
was a
have
way
a
to
definition for damaged. I think
damage,
that's what
could
we're
we
discussing.
Yeah. Well, but could we suggest or ask the board to consider rule writing for damaged then, or?
We typically don't write a definition when there's a plain meaning in Merriam-Webster. That's why I was looking it up just to see what was Merriam-Webster. I mean, I just needed some feedback. We're going to have to come back to you with modifications at the next meeting. We're not going to do this in real time today. I was just wanting to get some information and feedback so I could go back and do the research needed to bring you an update. So I can write that down as a consideration.
Okay. I just know that's how we would handle it at the Board of Nursing.
Okay. So what I've heard is replace a damaged prescription drug or device within the original duration of therapy and potentially discuss looking at a definition via rulemaking for damaged or explaining damaged as a damaged prescription, damaged has the same meaning as adulterated. If potentially I need to look at like the full definition of adulterated to see if it captures the things that you're discussing. Broken vials. et cetera.
This committee member Gibbler, I just, adulterated is such a broadly defines a lot of different scenarios. Damage just to me seems like just post dispensing, the patient's done something or something's happened to their prescription drug or device and needs it replaced. So I do like the word damage better than adulterated. I think if we do use adulterated, I think, as was just suggested, that maybe that's defined in rules somewhere a little bit more clearly what we mean by that, to make sure it includes post-dispensing damage to the prescription product.
So just so I'm clear, like if we were to do rulemaking, we're saying damage might include what of the following: broken, exposure to temperatures outside of the manufacturer's guidance, like what types of things. So I have a list.
I don't, this is committee member Gibbler. I think if you use the word damage, I don't think you need to define anything. Because to me, that's just very, very clear that if it's heat exposed or, fill in water or coagulated, something that it needs to be replaced. But if you use the word adulterated, I think, to me, I usually think of the manufacturing process when I think of the word adulterated and not post-dispensing. So if you use adulterated, I think it might need to be defined. But again, I think just saying replacing therapy with drug or device will make it very clear and probably won't get as many questions.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments or feedback? Okay. I am going to pause here for a second. Subject matter expert Valdez, the statement she wanted to make was not in relation to this protocol. She had a question about the motion, and so I did want to give her the opportunity to ask that question or to make a statement.
Thank you, Staff Member Davis. Yes, as I was hearing the motion, I believe I heard as you read the flu protocols interim recommendations. So historically, how OHA publishes their protocols is they call them interim until it's published in MMWR. And the last time we met, they were not published in MMWR, and so they were interim protocols. They are now published in MMWR. So I just want to make sure I heard correctly and bring it to light just so we tie up all the loose ends. If you maybe need to make a motion to remove that word interim from the flu protocols, I would encourage the committee to do it now while you're in session.
This is committee member Anderson who read through all of that, and I did in fact say interim for the flu protocols. Maybe it would also help me to know, are these Roman numerals before the dates?
So Staff Member Davis, I think while it might not be the cleanest, I think it might be easier if we just reread the entire motion, because I realized as you were reading that you were reading, it was kind of hard to hear because you said things like HPV or HIB, because we'd given that to you, that list, but we had updated it so that it was consistent. And I think it would be easier if we just read the list from what I'm going to share on the screen. It'd be clear for the record.
Staff Member Davis, we need to take just a few minutes break because we are going to have to unwind the motion that they already did. So I will type something up and send that to Committee Member Anderson, and then we can remotion using the list that you are working on. Does that make sense? We have to undo. Okay.
I will send you this, which is the updated language.
Okay.
For the motion.
I apologize to the entire committee. I just don't want to hit any roadblocks as we move on past this. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's very safe and I appreciate that. So do we want to take a 10-minute break?
Committee Member
Yes,
Anderson, I'm
this is
sorry.
Committee Member Anderson. Let's go
Oh.
ahead and take a 10-minute break.
And we'll get you the motion.
All right, so we'll reconvene at 10:26.
Thank you.